day. Oh, oh, happy day. It's day three. Three, 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 three. Day three. Welcome to day three. I'm so glad that you're here. It's 4:30 in the afternoon. It actually turned into a pretty beautiful day here. We got some sunshine. I didn't even have to turn on my little light here. Hopefully the clouds will continue to cooperate and I won't be shadowed in darkness. I'm coming at you live from home again. Hi, Laura, you're here. Coming at you live from home again. I was like busy working on stuff and like super excited and forgot to go to the office, basically. We have somebody released a mess of rabbits early in the spring, mysteriously pretty quickly after Easter, which I thought was very not cool. There were 4 rabbits originally, 4 adult rabbits, and then some of them disappeared and some of them have come and gone, and some of them had baby rabbits. There used to be 3 baby rabbits. Now there's only 1, and now it's mostly grown, but then there's a whole nother rabbit that wasn't part of the original rabbit mess. And so we've been watching these rabbits like popping in and out of the yard all day and trying to keep track of them. We've given them ridiculous names like Bobcat Food and Cat Food and Speedy. So I've been watching the rabbits out the window. Hey, we got Tammy here. We have Leslie. Hi, Heidi, you made it. Figured it out? We'll see how the buffering goes. It can help if you close other tabs and make sure nothing else is going on in your computer. That can give it like a little bit more oomph to kind of focus. And I always try to remind myself that like it has to go to space and then come back. So it's going a really long way. So, give it a minute. It's all good. It is all good. Oh my goodness. I've got my chai tea latte ready to go. Is it getting pretty cold where you guys are? I know a lot of you are in my neck of the woods. Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. Trisha's here. Hello. And Anu and Laura. Bobcat. Yeah. I did not name them. I would name them adorable things like Fluffy and Bouncy and Pokey or something. Or after like Valkyries, just to be ironic. No, that's definitely my husband. And then our son repeats them, which is hysterical to me. Yeah, I know. Well, we do live in the woods, so like circle of life, to be fair, that is what it is like around here. A little bit cold where you are, Laura. Getting into fall. I've had it's been like an uptick, like now that people are like getting back to school, people are starting to call and or try to get back into services and just ready to like face the winter with a little bit of support. Yeah, my phone's been ringing off the hook. It's kind of exciting. Grumble. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So hopefully you have your guidebook. Look, I printed it. I printed it in black and white, but actually it looks really nice even in black and white. Today is day 3. It's very exciting. I got my notes here ready to go. Hopefully you're ready to go too. I had a mentor for a while. Well, he wasn't, I don't know. He was in a class I was doing, and every time he would start a Facebook Live, he would do this little dance and like turn it on, and you could hear him go boom, and he'd like scream at the computer. So like if you're waiting for him to begin, like you see him and then there's a yell, and it is a lot of energy, but it's also like too much for me. I hope it's okay if it doesn't if I don't do that for you guys. You got your flannel and your flannel line jeans? Oh, that's brilliant. Yes. I love that. I want some. It sounds delicious. Oh, Trish, you have a toner cartridge on the fritz. Yeah, I hate that. I sometimes go to the library even though I have a printer just because it's easier. And they don't run out of printer toner. And you get a whole bunch for free. Actually, Trisha, I think you're in my library district. So I know that you get like 100 pages a quarter or something crazy like that for free on your library card. I'm all about free paper. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so the schedule of events. So today's our last class. That's at 4:30, right? It's Wednesday, right? It's Wednesday. Tomorrow is Thursday, and we are going to have class at noon tomorrow and on Friday. And that is because I had clients scheduled previously, and it just didn't work out with my schedule. And hopefully you can make it. Sometimes having a different time allows different people to come, which is cool. And if you can't, don't worry. There's a replay. Life is awesome. Here to support you and make sure that you get all the goods. So I know it's you think well, it's one class a day. It's not really that big of a deal. We had some people just join today, and so now they're 3 days behind essentially. So I have decided to run the class again. I'll probably take a month off because it is a lot of energy to run this class and try to get some new people in. That'd be exciting. So if you had to drop out, you probably wouldn't be watching this video, but if you did or not, here we go. So if you had to drop out for some reason or you didn't finish everything, I'll be teaching it again, and I'll make an announcement, and you can always do the challenge again. In fact, I'm going to run this pretty regularly. So you can join the challenge anytime, and please invite your friends and people in your community and people who you feel could benefit from this. And you can always do it over and over. It took me a long time to master this material because it is complicated and it is hard, and having those 5 days to really focus on it, and every time you do it, you'll have new breakthroughs. You'll have breakthroughs in different ways. So I encourage you to keep in the group, even if you didn't or weren't able to complete everything. I'll probably update the guidebook and stuff, so it'll always be a little bit different. It's fun to do live. Heidi's here, hooray! Awesome. Okay, so that's the schedule of events. Then the days coming up, I give them all clever names, which means I don't remember what they are. Day 4 is I Am the Goddess. This is a big deal day. This is the day that's not to be missed. So if you can make it, definitely. If you don't, even if you're behind, definitely watch this one, because it's going to change how you feel about yourself and your inherent divinity, which is why we're all here. And then day 5 is I Align to My Truth, which is about boundaries and manifesting new resources, and that's a really powerful one too. And then I am going to add a bonus day, a Q&A day. I might do that on Saturday. I might put a poll up and see what you guys think, and we may end up just doing it on Monday afternoon, late afternoon again. And because I don't know about you, but I'm one of those people that I have pretty good control over my schedule, regular control, on the weekdays when work is going on, and then less control on the weekend when a lot of other things are happening, and rest and relaxation, and just really turn my brain off. So I'll probably do that. And Heidi, Giselle is here. Mwah, I love you. You're so pretty. Okay. Ooh, let's talk about the contest winner. So all you have to do for the contest is come to class and do the homework. And so it was really easy for me, you guys, to see who qualified, because I just compared the people in the comments to the people who I saw were in class. And so I wrote everyone's name on a piece of paper, and I have my little, whoops, that one jumped out, I'm not ready. Have my little sorting hat, I don't know, what do you want to call it? Got my little sorting hat. So the winner of the contest for yesterday will win the Soul Food guided meditations. So these are visualizations and hypnotherapies that I put together that there's 12 of them, and they guide you through really significant problems. So the things people want the most or struggle with the most, including low self-esteem, not having courage, feeling anxious. I have hypnotherapies for all of those and more. Now, this is a bonus that usually I charge $2,000 for, and I'm giving it away. And the winner today is Carrie Soderquist. You win. Thanks for coming to class. Thank you for doing your homework. I will be contacting you shortly about how to claim your prize. I hope you enjoy it and get a lot of use out of it. I really think that you will. I really think that you'll come to love it. So that's awesome. I love giving stuff away. I think that's really fun. So let me tell you about the new contest. Same rules. Come to class, do your homework. Make sure you post it on the thread that's there. Now, I realize that this is a group and there's people you don't know, and maybe you don't want your business out in front of everybody. So it doesn't have to be like crazy detailed, right? As you do your inner work, like that's the stuff that's important. But it does help other people to see some of the answers you come up with. It helps people not feel so alone. It encourages them to maybe have some bravery and post their breakthroughs. So you can post as much or as little as you like, as long as you post it on the thread. That's where I'll be looking to compare to who went to class in order to decide who wins the contest. And we'll do another random drawing. Geek out and like make a list and like roll dice for it, but it's too geeky even for me. So I'm upping the ante because as we go forward, like the homework really builds and the classes really build on themselves, and I want to support you in enjoying that momentum. So the winner of the contest for tomorrow will win my program called Goddess Love School. Goddess Love School is all about connecting with your inner resources around relationships and experiencing the divine love that you desire. And so I worked with Aphrodite and I channeled 12 subjects based on the zodiac, and then added some psychology and some hypnotherapy and some breakthroughs. And so you get the classes and the soul foods to support that, and this is a package worth $4,000. So really this is super valuable. So come to class and do your homework because you want this. Trust me, this is an awesome thing. I have all of the content accessible right away. There's some that I'm still posting. It just takes me a little time to post it, but I will make sure that you have access to the whole thing. Okay, let's get started. Let me check and see if there's any questions. How do I prove you did your homework? You post it on the thread on Facebook that says homework day 2. And it'll have, so this one will say homework day 3, and it'll have the assignment, and you just post it in the thread there like a comment. Yeah. They're going to get more complicated in the future, which is why we're up in the ante and get better and better prizes. I love prizes. Yes. Beautiful. Okay. So we learned yesterday that most of us are trapped in this dynamic, and it's a dynamic we've probably been totally unaware of. Maybe you've heard the word codependency before, but maybe didn't quite know what it meant. And often people talk about codependency and not how to get out of it. And so really explored that yesterday with the victim triangle and the empowerment dynamic. And now once you begin to see that triangle, you can take action. And you can take action by adjusting where you are in the triangle. And now that you know where it is, and I've talked with some of you and you were like, I realized I was a victim and I decided I wasn't gonna be, and then I became the creator and I called a coach forward and I turned a persecution into a challenge, and it was just a thought shift and you had a breakthrough. And for some people it's more difficult, right? Or some topics it's more difficult. Like if they become really personal, or they're from people who we're really intimate with, that can be harder. And so you can use that self-coaching model that we did on day 1 to support you through that, and really using those 5 whys and the 3 gates. Really powerful for making a breakthrough and a transformation. So with this new model, you learned how you can move forward within it instead. And we discussed how our minds are busy on automatic trying to protect us. And now that we know that, we don't have to be so afraid. You know, energy flows where attention goes, right? And so as we bring attention to these dynamics, it makes changes. Even just knowing that it's there, that's a huge breakthrough. Beautiful. So my goal for you today, we're going to talk about your special ability, because you are an empath, and empaths are all about love. We're going to talk about what that really is and what it means, explore its nuances and its depths, and how to transfer your strengths in love into areas in your life that need work. You're going to use your powers for good instead of evil. What do you think about that? Brittany's here, hooray! Oh yeah, Trisha, that was really rough. That was rough. That was rough for me too. Like I was like, how did that happen? And let me know if you want some coaching on that. You can we can Facebook around that if you want. Yeah, let me know. Okay. On your guidebook, we're on day 3. It's good to love many things, for therein lies the truest strength. And what is done in love is done well. Just fun finding quotes and finding art for it. Okay, so what is real love? We talked a little bit about what divine love is, and that is loving yourself as if loving a child or a goddess. That's sort of this idea of it accesses a different part of you, which we're going to talk more about today. Real love, the way that we're talking about it, is namaste. The God in me honors the God in you, even the ugly ones. The God in me honors the God in you, even the ugly ones. Right? So it is, it has nothing to do with the feeling or sensation. Love is an action or an attitude that we can practice all the time towards anything. And we can still live in a world of boundaries, because love does not mean not having boundaries. Love means honoring boundaries, and divinity has boundaries, and so do we. And we talked before about acknowledging those parts that we have to deal with, that formerly would have been persecutory. And we had that big list, remember? That now we understand that if I am a creator in my life, then those things are challenges, and I must come to a relationship with them, and that is loving. It is loving to be in relationship with it instead of setting yourself up against it. Even things that feel difficult or awful, or that feel we have no control over them, right? Real love is honoring the divinity in all things, including yourself. So today I want to really break down the parts of you. We're talking about parts of the psyche, parts of the self, and knowing these parts allows you to access them so that you can use them as resources to go deeper and understand what their function is for you. And it helps to, when we get to the 7 kinds of love, to figure out like what kind of love is most appropriate, and where I experience that love, or how I can experience, or even what part of me is loving what part of somebody else. So that's exciting. Okay, so let's start with the body, the major parts of the psyche. People forget that the body is part of the psyche. We think of the psyche as the mind and the soul. That's kind of the extent that sort of most philosophers kind of leave it there. And they forget that, like, hello. And we're just starting to understand like the somatic element of trauma, and how we do store trauma and energy and information in the body. And of course, if you're sensitive and you've been doing magic or Reiki, like, you know that energy is real and it does exist in the body. If you've ever had an illness and then been able to cure it through energetic work, like, you understand that the body is where we manifest these things. So the body is your manifestation on this earthly plane, which contains the unconscious. Your body contains the part of you that you are not aware of. It holds woundings, unexpressed emotions, and houses all parts of you. Some parts have functions and go automatically, like organs and defense mechanisms, and that's why it's in the unconscious. So much of it just runs on its own. We talked yesterday about the defense mechanisms that we have even before we are conscious of it. A smell, a sight, a touch, a sound can trigger us and make us go. And we can go like fight or flight, or freeze or fawn. And the body's doing that by itself. And we're going to learn how to interrupt it more. And the body's doing that to protect you. But your body is the manifestation of your soul on the earthly plane, and it has your unconscious. And there's all kinds of medicine that talks about what's stored where, and there's astrology for the body and things like that, which is a really cool field if you ever want to get into that. Okay, the inner child. You've probably heard of this before. This is the underdeveloped part of ourselves that may be wounded, but it's doing its best in a difficult situation. This part usually doesn't have the maturity or the skills to handle a particular situation. And this inner child can like show up inappropriately when we expect too much. That's called parentification, right? We're making a parent out of the child, which isn't fair to the child. They don't get to be a kid and go play, which is their job. They have to pretend to be an adult when they don't have the skills around that. I think about it's, if you have children, like, you can't just expect your baby to like dress themselves because they don't have the motor skills for it. They don't have the dexterity. They don't have the concentration. They don't have the forethought. It's like literally not in their brains. And so expecting that of them is wrong and unloving because they're not capable. And yet we don't hate babies because they don't act like adults. Well, I hope not. I'm sure you don't. Maybe some people do. Not us. It's not us. So that inner child comes up when we've been triggered very often. And we'll talk more about managing the inner child in a little bit. But the job of the inner child is to go play and be themselves. The shadow. The shadow is any undesired part of ourselves that we repressed and defensive parts that turn into monsters. So even something that could be good about you, if you repress it and don't allow it expression, it can become a monster. Very often, the simplest example is like when you are mad at something or somebody and you feel like you can't be mad in that moment, like it's not safe somehow. So you like shove it down and your face is doing this thing and you can't express it. And then you blow up at somebody else later. Like that would be an example of a shadow part popping up to come get you. And we talked yesterday about different pieces of the shadow and how they appear and what they look like, and how it's really easy for other people to see our shit and it's easy for us to see theirs and hard for us to see our own stuff. But know that this is an understood part of the psyche, and it's anything undesired, and it could be literally be anything. There are many people, and maybe you're one of them, where you hear people talk about self-sabotage and how like they want something and they can't get it and they don't know why. Well, it's that shadow that pops up that's like, you can't have that, right? That you don't deserve that. That's the shadow part. The wise adult. If we have an inner child, there's going to be a opposite component. And so the opposite component would be the wise adult. The part of you which acts in your behalf and makes healthy choices for you, that always knows what is best, even if it's unpleasant. So that part of you that's like, I want 10 cookies is an inner child part. The part of you that goes, well, how about just 2? That's a wise adult, because that's healthier for you to eat too, to have some reasonable boundaries on it. The wise adult is really good at helping us figure out what our boundaries are and to be able to state them in an unemotional way. And that wise part is looking out for us. And very often it's modeled on people in our lives. So our parents, a teacher, a mentor, a grandparent. It's usually a person. It's kind of a mortal thing, a mortal example. Okay. The next part is the higher self. This is the soul part that keeps you moving forward on your life path, where your personal soul contracts are agreed upon. It's this timeless part of you. If you've read, what's her name? Caroline Myss, her book Soul Contracts talks a lot about this. It's a great book. I don't agree with everything that she says. I think she gets some things way, way wrong. But overall, like her discussion about what happens in between lives and our soul relationships with others is like pretty solid, I feel. I had the pleasure of a hypnotherapist friend of mine was doing quantum hypnotherapy, I think she called it, quantum hypnosis, in which you do a soul retrieve. No, you do a past life regression and then access the highest self. And it's so funny because the highest self does not care about mortal things. The highest self only cares about what's happening in the soul world and the meaning of things. So like every question I had prepared to ask, my highest self was like, oh, why are you even talking about this? This is so irrelevant. I guess here's an answer for your irrelevant question. Pretty much everything was like that. But if I was like, what is the meaning of the universe? It would be a little bit more interested. But overall, I had like no interest in like my meaning in life or like, what I should do for a career or like how to solve this problem. It's just like do it or don't. This is soul stuff. Anyway, it's pretty funny. So that a higher self is that part of you, that soul part of you. That's the part to me, like if you do any like astral projection, that's the part that goes on walkabout and does things. It is like anchored in your body but not connected to your body, right? It can go do soul stuff if that's how you roll. Okay, the other part is our spirit guides. These are helpers and assistants that work on your behalf on the spiritual plane. They speak to your higher self, and you need to cultivate a relationship with them by going into meditation and speaking to them, by doing rituals, by making space for them. I have a really good practice of creating, like going into your mind and making a room for them that's really inviting. I put gods here. So angels, animal totems, and this is where I put like archetypal gods. So like the Greek gods or the Egyptian, that their personalities rather than like functions. So like love is a function, or love is an archetype, and there are many, many gods and goddesses of love, right? So there's not one deity of love. There are many, just like there are many people, and there's one human race. It's more like that. That's the relationship. So those are the different parts of the psyche. Let me see if there's any questions here. Heavy renovation. I like that. Okay. So this part's really fun. There are 7 traditional kinds of love, and I did look up and do some other research to see if there were more, and every time I found a new one, I thought it could actually fall into another one of these categories that already existed, so it didn't make sense to me to like make a new category, and I'm a classic girl, so I'll just go with the 7 kinds of love. So the reason that we want to enumerate these and get really clear on them is because we have this idea that like, especially in the West, our word in English, it kind of doesn't do it for us. Like I love shoes, and I love my husband, and I love Aphrodite, and I love my kid, and they're all different. The love and the expectations and the rules around them are different. So if you're in a relationship with somebody and like maybe you're dating, or maybe like there's some energy happening there that we say, I love you, and it doesn't clearly state what the expectations are for that love. But the Greeks had 7 different words for it that we would classify today as the word love. And so discovering what they are is going to help you see that like there are different kinds, and they're useful in different situations. And I'll give you some more examples as we're going through them. So on your on your guidebook, it's over here, and just write down kind of just a couple of words that like jump out at you. You don't have to get every single word. And remember, I do post the answers for the guidebook a couple hours after the class, or apparently I like post the wrong thing like early in the morning. I also did that today. I posted the homework for day 3, and people are like, here's my answer. I'm like, wait, how do you know what your answer is? So like definitely if you've done it already, you can do the homework again now that you'll know what the 7 kinds of love are, and see if that changes your answer. Or maybe it's pretty intuitive. I don't know. Maybe you'll learn something. It'll be fun. Okay, the first kind of love is Eros. This is the kind that we, when we say I love you, this is probably what we mean. Eros was the Greek god of love and sexual desire, depending on which Greek mythology you're looking at, he's either the son of Aphrodite or a divine mystical force that was there the moment that creation began. So take your pick. I think they're both lovely. We have this image of Cupid as this like adorable little fat baby, but actually Eros was typically symbolized in Greece as a kind of a teenage boy. Yeah, a handsome youth. God of love and sexual desire, shooting his golden arrows into the hearts of both mortals and immortals without warning. So something that couldn't be controlled that well. The Greeks actually feared this kind of love because they felt it was dangerous and could get them into trouble. Because it's that divine beauty, it's that divine lust. A lot of it's based on sexual attraction first. So that kind of love at first sight is like the hit of Cupid's arrow. It's where we get the term erotica. So an example would be like the young couple that meets and they feel immediately attracted and lustful towards one another. That typical Romeo and Juliet, they have eyes for nobody else. There's no one in the world. And it's really heady. Like, I hope you've experienced this kind of love because it's fantastic. A lot of people feel that when this kind of love is gone, that they no longer love their partner or their spouse, and that they don't know what to do then. And so then they break up and they look for this experience again. And because we're human and we're capable of it, sometimes like not in order, right? Love does not come in order. That's part of what the Greeks were worried about, is that it didn't, like, you could fall in love to someone you weren't married to, or before you were married, or you could have sex with somebody as a woman. That would be awful, apparently, in ancient Greece, right? They're not perfect. So that's the kind of love that we understand. Let me just check and make sure, see if there's any questions. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Philia, love of the mind. This is known as brotherly love. It represents sincere and platonic love. It's the kind of love you would feel for like your brother or a really good friend, maybe somebody in a sorority or a fraternity that you're close to. In ancient Greece, it was more valuable and cherished than Eros because it was believed that it was longer lasting. It's that kind of, and I hate this phrase, but bros before hoes, kind of that it would be like Philia before Eros, which doesn't sound as good. So Philia exists when people share the same values and dispositions, and then those feelings are reciprocated. So examples would be two friends that talk about how deeply they understand each other, and that that security and openness causes them to feel comfortable and taken care of. So it is a very like easygoing kind of love. It's also like in fancy talk language, like philia. So I'm a bibliophilia, so I love books, right? That's what the philia means, the love of. And it is that kind of love. It's kind of a sincere platonic love. So I guess in English, if you were like, oh my God, I love those shoes, it's this kind, not the Eros kind. But again, same word, problematic. So brotherly love. Ludos, playful love. This is a flirtatious and teasing kind of love, accompanied by dancing and laughter. So somebody that you like meet at a club and you guys just have fun that night, or going out with your girlfriends and like living it up. It's childlike and fun. The research I was doing was like, if you think about it, millennials enjoy this kind of love more than anything else, because maybe we have a sense that love could be playful. So when I released the feelings of shame in my body, doing some shadow work, one of the things that opened up for me was this kind of longing for ludos love. And so what I started doing is finding somebody in the group that I was in that could be my playmate, that we could like kind of joke around, and like we were like the bad kids that like sat in the back and like made jokes, because I wanted a playmate. And it was something that I was really missing. And I felt like that was a new role that opened up for me when I was no longer terrified about like my role in the group, and if I was being a good student and if I was pleasing the teacher, that it allowed me a space to create this kind of flirtatious, fun love. And this is not based on gender, right? I feel like I want to be really clear on that none of these are based on gender and expectations. This is the quality of relationship between people. And it doesn't just happen with one person. I think that you can probably I hope you can come up with examples where you have playful love with many people, maybe even a particular group of people. For me, who was it? Was it Carrie? She's like, I can't come to class, I'm going to Girl Scouts. I was like, oh, Girl Scouts. Like that was my first ludus love, right? Okay, pragma. Pragma is long-lasting love. This is the kinds that we witness in our grandparents, and we're like, I long for that. Between a married couple, which develops over a long period of time. They don't have to be married. It's just people who live together. The Greeks considered it one of the highest forms of love because it is about commitment that comes from understanding and compromise and putting up with them, right? There is a level of tolerance in this kind of love. So it's pragmatic in the way that it's like you're standing in love. It's not falling in love. That there is a claiming and a choosing to it. And so, like, to me, when I marry people, I'm marrying them into long-lasting love. I'm marrying them into pragma. Because love can grow over time, and it requires profound understanding and coming to new understanding about the people that you love. And that's just built over time, because we do grow and change. So, thinking about your grandparents, how much they've endured, and how even though they've endured, they've always chosen one another. And again, has nothing to do with marriage or gender, certainly, but it has a long-lasting quality. It's almost something like, even that kind of love is almost something that you grow into. I don't think you wake up one day and you're like, we're pragma now. We're practical. My teacher used to call it stir the oatmeal love, because it's just everyday breakfast kind of stuff. Let me check. A better example. Oh, Ludos in a D&D group. That's a great idea. Yeah, that's a good one. Laura, the spelling is going to be in the guidebook. Pragma sounds like love that lasts in a relationship when the Eros burns away. Exactly. And you can still have cycles of Eros in it. That couples that last a long time do tend to have a romantic cycle to them, that there's periods of hot and cold. And we know that, and that's okay. Yeah, all of that is normal. But if you know that, right? But if you're coming from a place where erotic love, where Eros love is the standard, and then when that goes away, you're like, well, what's left? And you may not value it very much. I'm thinking of the movie American Beauty. Is that the one with the young girl and the rose petals? Anyway, he totally doesn't appreciate the pragmatic love that he and his wife share in that film. And then so he's looking for erotic love somewhere else in an inappropriate place, right? That's what the movie's about. Okay, 2 more kinds of love. Okay, my Greek. Philautia, Philautia, love of the self. So they divided it into 2 kinds. There's one that's purely selfish, seeking pleasure and fame and wealth, which can lead to or be expressed within narcissism. And the other is the healthy kind of love that we give to ourselves, which I call self-fullness. You're not selfish, you're self-full. Philautia is essential in any relationship because you have to take up space in the relationship. Equal space. What do you think of that? The me from 10 years ago is like, nuh-uh. I had a relationship with a narcissist in high school. Of course, I didn't know that at the time. Like, I thought he was amazing. And then the moment that I no longer thought he was amazing, we couldn't agree on anything, and he, you know, was no longer on a pedestal, and then for some reason it just didn't work. And so I like sacrificed a lot of myself in order to be in that relationship, to try to make him happy. And at first I was like, well, I love you so much, so like, of course. And really I was sacrificing my own sense of self, my own selffulness, to feed his narcissism. It sucked. I hope you never have to go through that. Yeah. Okay. Philautia is essential. It is about like, we don't have the strength to love others when we don't have the strength to love ourselves. Do we really have the skills to love somebody else in a namaste kind of way? Can you honor the God in them without honoring the God in yourself? And that means believing that they're like a whole person and they're doing their best, and that maybe their shadow and their inner child is like popping up at times, and that's okay, because yours is too, right? And having that self-love, the self-full love for yourself, gives you space for that. And it makes you occupy the relationship and occupy the body. And in like, when I work with clients around increasing sexual pleasure, like a lot of it is like, get in this body. You got to love this thing, this right here. You know, you have to, in order to experience fulfilling sexuality. It's just straight up, sorry, just got to love this thing that's here. Okay, examples of this kind of love. The selfish love takes and doesn't give back in return. And sometimes they use it to excel in life. So somebody who like steps on other people, maybe you know some, I won't say it, politics. Anyway, social climbers out there. But the positive kind that is often seen in successful couples, or they feel like kind of a melting pot and there is a give and take, but definitely like they're their own people. They both do their own things, but they can come together to support each other and encourage each other's growth. And it also means that they each get to grow themselves. And that's really important. That's where that self-fullness comes in. It's like, I'm growing and changing all the time. I'm not the same person I was before I had a baby, or before I got married, or before I went to college. Like, all of those are different versions of me. And they're all me too. And so you have to be in a place where you can grow, or else you'll feel stifled and resentful. But there has to be love for that. Number 7, storge, love of the child. This is the love parents naturally feel for their children, assuming they're not narcissistic or debilitated in some other way. It's based on natural feelings, and it's kind of effortless. This is a kind of love that understands forgiveness and acceptance and sacrifice, that there's things that you're going to have to do in order to care for this person. This is the kind of love that makes you feel secure and comfortable and safe. And too much of this can become a rescuer, right? Some of these sound familiar. So you think about the kind of love that your mother gives you. Hopefully your mother, my mom did. Hi, Mom. Or your very best friend. It can also give you this kind of love. It is rooted in friendship and understanding, in that like, I care about you and what you need, but there's also a deep emotional connection, and there's a responsibility to care for and nurture. So you may have this kind of love also in other generational relationships. So like, when a parent is dying and they need taken care of, and you're doing those kind of nurturing behaviors, right? Sometimes it is about getting down to the level of the body. What does the body need, right? So all of these are superpowers. Now that you see what they are, you can apply them in new ways. It was interesting to see that some of you, when you did the homework and you're like just guessing on what these things are, what you said your number was. I'm really keen to see like what you come up with now. So that inner child pops up when something happens, and it's, you know, if somebody, from the example yesterday, someone comes onto a property and we're triggered, it's a child part that can come up and try to deal with the situation. And usually it comes from a point where there was a big decision, a soul loss, or a trauma. Trauma big T, trauma little t, right? There's lots of kinds of traumas. Wish we had better words, but that's what we got to work with. So imagine that you're at dinner and the conversation is getting heated and somebody yells at you. That's what you experience, is somebody yelling at you. Now, a lot of us have experienced being yelled at as children, and that feels very threatening to children. We see it in their biology. So you go into fight or flight or freeze or fawn mode, and then imagine it's as if a child part comes up and is like driving the boat, right? This child part comes up. The same feeling you had when you were 5 and getting yelled at, suddenly you're 5 years old, but now you're in an adult situation. You're in an adult relationship. There's people at a table. There's social conventions, something a 5-year-old cannot handle. And so people who like kind of lose their shit over things that you feel like they shouldn't be losing their shit over, that's their inner child coming up, right? That is that part of them that is trying to manage the situation, that's feeling triggered and is doing the best that they can. So when this inner child pops up, you can use these kinds of love in order to make it right. So treat that inner child as a beloved who is capable of doing their best, but lacks the development and skills of an adult, and yet they're in an adult situation. So immediately that gives you compassion for yourself and for the person that's losing their shit, especially if it's you losing your shit. So there's a part of you that can have compassion for that, the same compassion that you would have for a child or a goddess, for your inner child. So children need soothing, they need comfort, and they need boundaries. They need all of these things to be successful and to get their wits about them so that they can make better decisions, the best decision that they can make. So we ask the wise adult to take over. When that happens, the child is relieved and can go about doing age-appropriate things, such as playing or hanging out with friends or coloring or taking a nap. And so you might feel this coming up for you. When that part of you that's freaking out, when that limbic system happens, that inner child comes up. It's like a portal with no time and space because it's quantum, right? It's our psyche, and all of these things are happening at the exact same time. So using that superpower of love, we soothe that inner child. So when that part of you pops up, and you can try this on other people, like when you see somebody losing their marbles, how old do they seem to you? There's a difference between the temper tantrum of a 3-year-old and apparently what I've been told, the temper tantrum of a 13-year-old. They may share some things in common, but the skills they have are different, and the things that they freak out about are different. Right? The 13-year-old's going to have more skills than the 3-year-old. The 18-year-old's going to have more skills than both of them. 25-year-old is probably pretty good on skills, right? So that's going to point to maybe where there's been a wounding for you, but at any rate, it points to the level of development, right? So how much of my brain do I have available? How logical can I be? How much control do I have over my emotions? When I worked with severely mentally ill people, I didn't know it at the time because I hadn't studied this stuff, but I understand it now. Like I can look back and see now that like, oh, that's like a 2-year-old. Oh, that's like an infant. Like they're a grown man responding to this moment as an infant, and how much compassion I have for them now. And so then you look at the situation, what's happening, and then is this situation appropriate for a child of that age to handle? So a 13-year-old being yelled at is going to, one, responds differently than, say, a 3-year-old, but also like they can handle the situation with more maturity than a 3-year-old. So then you consider, what are the emotional needs of this child right now? And they need soothing and comfort and boundaries. So you're giving those to yourself. And you give those needs to yourself. So I want more adults to be like, I need a timeout. I would love for that to come into our vocabulary again and be a thing, and just be like, I'm sorry, I gotta go. I need a nap. I need a timeout. I need 5 minutes to calm the F down, right? You're giving those things to yourself. So if you're needing soothing, we will do this automatically. If you're an automatic eater, and you're like, I don't know why I'm eating this thing. I didn't mean to order that at McDonald's, whatever's true for you. That is part of a child's self-soothing, not an adult self-soothing. Self-soothing for an adult would be like taking some deep breaths, exercising, something that's healthy, or a reasonable portion, right? I'm going to McDonald's and I'm not supersizing, right? Like those are the adult choices. So giving those needs to yourself in a healthy way. And you let that child know that there is an adult here and you will handle it now. So now you're bringing your consciousness into that wise adult part of you, and you're like, I'm in charge here. I can make decisions, and you're using the front part of your brain. We have soothed the limbic part by soothing the inner child, and understanding that their behavior, their choices, your behavior, your choices, right, are based in these wounded places, and that you can soothe them. Yeah, and this takes practice. Which sucks. And mostly like I do this with my clients like through hypnotherapy, which allows us to actually like be that inner child and connect with them and give them what they need on a deep level. And we're reprogramming the hypothalamus to change those behaviors and encode them at a new level. So what we're talking about today is kind of a surface level. Like you can talk yourself through it. It's more efficient using hypnotherapy or meditation methods where you're in a beta state beta is daytime, where you're in a delta state. Okay. If you don't love yourself, how in the world are you going to love someone else? It's true. And my argument is that your cup isn't full enough, that you don't have the energy to. And because you don't have the energy to attune to that inner part, that inner child part when it comes up. And so it doesn't give you space to love yourself. I didn't do Agape. It should be on here. I missed it in my notes. Hold on, let me do Agape. There it is. Oh, that's why it's like on the page break. Agape, number 5. Thank you, Heidi. Agape love is selfless love, the love for humanity as a whole. It's the closest thing we have to unconditional love. So agape is the kind of love you give without expecting anything in return. So like a charitable act would be an act of agape. It's compassionate love. It allows us to sympathize with other people and to help and connect people that we don't know and who aren't in our circle. The human mind can handle a community of about 300, and beyond that, it becomes a faceless mass. So if you were in my graduating class of 800 or 900, I didn't know the people I went to high school with, and so I'm not really interested in connecting with them. And when the high school calls and they want money, like I'm not interested because like I don't know these people. So I don't have agape. I don't have agape for that. But I can begin to extend that and practice that. The world needs more agape. We need to help each other. We are a one world community now. We have seen, one philosopher said, now that we have seen the earth from space, we can see that we're all one and we have undeniable proof, and we need to start acting that way. But it takes us a while to like get that into our consciousness. So an example of agape love is a person in your life that's always giving to others and needing nothing in return. But remember that agape also has a selffulness. They're not giving of themselves. They're not giving themselves away to death, right? They're giving what they can. They show their love and are energized by giving. They give all they have, all they are to those around them, and they find beauty in life. So they're almost fed by like a different mechanism. If you do Reiki, they call this the hollow bone. Like that's the energy that's coming through you, is this universal love that agape flows through you, and so it doesn't take anything away from you. If you are sacrificing yourself, that is not agape. It's not. I don't know what it is. I don't think it's any of these, right? You're killing yourself. You're killing your inner child. And how can you do that? You love them. Okay. So we have, hey, I didn't go over time. Yes. The homework is here. So I use the anglicized version rather than the, because they're more descriptive of it. And so I'm asking around like, 0 means not present at all. It means like I have no ability to do this. And I believe that all of you have some ability to do all of these, but there's going to be some that are easier for you. So I did not appreciate storge, the love of a child, until I had children. And now I get it, and I realize it's a mystery with a capital M, and it's one of those things you can't explain to somebody, even though I was well loved by my parents, right? And I received that kind of love. I didn't get it for myself until I had my own experience of that, because it is a different kind of love. Now that you know the love of the self, right, is your selffulness, how strong is that? And if you attend to your inner child at all, there's going to be some of that. All of these are going to be present for you. So I don't want to say nothing with no zeros, because I don't believe it. I think it's a lie. You're going to have to work hard to convince me that you are not loving. I just don't believe it. So go ahead and you can fill that out, and you can just fill it out for yourself and share on the group which kind of love is your greatest strength and maybe which one is more difficult for you. And what I want you to see is that you can take these loves that you're good at and apply them to places that you're not good at. So even if when your inner child pops up and you are acting a fool and you feel vulnerable and raw and terrified, maybe you don't have that love of a child. Maybe you've never experienced that and that's not natural for you. But can you have pragma, long-standing love for this part of you? Okay, I'm committed to you. I understand you. I tolerate the behavior you're having because I am committed to this pragmatic love that we have together, and I will make you a sandwich. That would be an example of extending pragma love to a part of you that's hard to love. Playful love, if you can build on that, which is totally fun. How are you experiencing that? Like taking your inner child out to play. I totally ate fruit snacks before our class session because I thought it would be fun because my son likes them, and I was like, when's the last time I had fruit snacks? It's not since I was like 9. So now I eat them all the time because it's fun and it's something fun we could do together and it's playful. And so I'm applying that, right? And when it feels hard to love somebody, you can apply one of these other things. And some of you are going to be good at some kind and have others that are more difficult. So I want you to see that you can use these to apply to the inner child. Tammy, did I answer your question about agape? I think I covered it now. Trisha, how many relationships fizzle out when one side needs a certain kind of love when they needed something else? I.e., I need Ludos and you're only getting Eros. That's so true. Yeah. And when the Eros like runs out or it's just not very present, or how, Ludos can feed into Eros, right? That'd be fun. It'd be really fun. Even people who, and I don't want to speak for anybody's experience, so I'm curious, but people who are asexual, they have other kinds of love that they experience, and maybe they just don't prefer erotic kind of love. I'd love to hear somebody's experience with that if you have that. Behave, Trisha. I'm really glad, Laura. I hope this does help your anger. Welch's is the best fruit snacks because it has more juice and fruit in it and less sugar. Multivitamin gummies are wonderful for hit of playful energy. What a good idea! That's a great idea. Because now I eat fruit snacks all the time, so maybe I'll take my vitamins, I'll just like throw them in there. What a great idea. Okay, so that was really fun going over love, and I'm really looking forward to see what your strength is and how you can use that strength to apply it to a place or a part of you that feels really sensitive. And feel free to share whatever feels comfortable and safe for you. I would love to connect with you if you want to message me privately, or you can post to the group, and we can all have a chat around what's important to you. You guys are awesome. It's 5:30 here, which is great. Remember, we're going to start at noon tomorrow, which is around about lunchtime, hopefully, for you. So do your best to come to class live, and if you can't, hit up the replay. And I'm going to figure out a contest for people who do the homework and the replay. So just because you can't come to class live doesn't mean you can't win. Like Carrie. I'm so excited that you won. I'll be contacting you soon. Are there any questions or thoughts before we sign off for the day? Tomorrow's I Am the Goddess. Talk to you about my goddess system. Talk about the building blocks of self-love. We're just hitting it from every angle. So it's like if there's something that doesn't connect with you, you're like, I don't know about this victim triangle, I'll be like, all right, let's try this. All right, let's do that. Got it for every kind of learning style. Okay. Okay, so some of you have asked me about working with me. I am putting together a program which I'm really excited to share with you, and I am going to talk to you about it tomorrow. And we have class to do, so I'm not going to take up the entire class time, but I am going to dedicate a little bit of it to telling you about the program to see if it's a good fit for you. It's not a good fit for everybody, but it might be a good fit for you. So I'll talk a little bit about that tomorrow, and so, that'd be great. I'm looking forward to hearing your feedback. Well, I'd love to. We got more class tomorrow and the day after. Beautiful. Thank you, everybody. Go eat your gummy multivitamins. Tuning into that inner child. What does that inner part of me need? And how can I soothe that? If I don't have the kind of love I'm supposed to have, like how can I use another kind of love to soothe that part of me? How could I use these other resources? Beautiful. Well, I had fun, and I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow at noon and reading your homework. Bye.